Do you remember what it felt like to be misunderstood in high school? To walk the hallways feeling like no one really got you, not your parents, not your teachers, maybe not even your friends? Now imagine being locked in a school library on a Saturday with 4 total strangers, each one from a different world. A jock, a princess, a brain, a basket case, and a criminal. They were never meant to be friends. But what happened that day changed them forever. This isn't just a teen movie. This is The Breakfast Club, a film that defined a generation. And maybe, just maybe, it defined a piece of you too. Let's go back. Back to 1985. Back to a story that still speaks to the heart, no matter how old you are. In the spring of 1985, a small film with a simple setting and just 5 main characters quietly entered theaters. It didn't have car chases, explosions, or big-name stars. But what it did have was something rare: truth. The Breakfast Club, directed by John Hughes, became more than just a movie. It became a mirror, a reflection of teenage life that felt raw, honest, and painfully familiar. For millions of Americans, then and now, it brought back memories of high school, the pressure, the labels, the loneliness, and the longing to be understood. What made this film so special wasn't its budget or its setting. It was its heart. It gave a voice to every teenager who felt like they didn't fit in. It reminded adults of who they once were. And for many, it planted a message that still echoes decades later. You are not alone. In this documentary, we're going to explore how this film became a cultural milestone. We'll talk about the cast that brought it to life, the director who understood teenagers better than most adults ever could, and the lessons that still matter today, whether you're 16 or 60. So sit back, and let's take a closer look at the film that reminded us all that underneath the labels, we're more alike than we think. To understand why The Breakfast Club hit so hard, we have to look back at where America was in the early 1980s. Ronald Reagan was president. MTV had just launched and was changing the way young people connected to music. Cable TV was growing fast, but the internet was still a dream. Teenagers weren't glued to smartphones. They were watching movies in theaters, listening to Walkmans, and hanging out at the mall. But underneath the big hair, neon fashion, and upbeat pop songs, something deeper was happening. Teenagers were struggling to be heard. In schools across the country, cliques ruled. You had the jocks, the nerds, the popular kids, and the outcasts, and they rarely mixed. Many students felt trapped in roles they didn't choose. Parents were working more, the economy was shifting, and kids were often left to figure things out on their own. Hollywood, for the most part, didn't seem interested in telling real stories about teenagers. Sure, there were fun comedies and silly high school flicks, but they rarely showed what it felt like to be a teen, the pressure to fit in, the fear of being judged, and the silent hope that someone, somewhere, would understand you. Then came a man named John Hughes, a writer-director who actually listened to young people. He saw past the stereotypes. He believed teenagers were smart, emotional, and worth taking seriously. And in 1985, he gave the world The Breakfast Club, a film that stripped away the cliches and showed 5 teenagers, not as characters, but as people. The story behind The Breakfast Club is as fascinating as the film itself. It all began with John Hughes, a man who didn't just write for teenagers, he understood them. Before directing, Hughes had already made a name for himself, writing hit comedies like National Lampoon's Vacation. But deep down, he had something more personal to say, something quieter, more real. He wrote the entire script for The Breakfast Club in just 2 days. The idea was simple but powerful. 5 students from different backgrounds stuck together in Saturday detention. No costumes, no special effects, just raw conversation. And in that simplicity, Hughes saw magic. What's more impressive? This film was his second directorial project. His first was 16 Candles, another teen hit, but The Breakfast Club was more intimate. It was filmed almost entirely in one location, a high school library. That's it. In fact, most of the movie was shot inside Maine North High School in Des Plaines, Illinois. The school had shut down a few years earlier, making it a perfect and cheap location for Hughes's vision. The cast rehearsed for weeks before the cameras even rolled. Hughes wanted the actors to feel the tension, the awkwardness, and the slow build of trust that their characters would go through. It worked. The filming took only a few weeks, but the emotional weight of what they captured would last forever. This wasn't just another teen flick. It was a deeply personal film, made with heart, soul, and an honest respect for what it really feels like to grow up. John Hughes wasn't just making a movie. He was giving teenagers a voice, and giving adults a reason to remember who they used to be. The Breakfast Club is built on 5 unforgettable characters, each one a symbol of the social roles we all saw in high school. But behind every role was a real person, and behind every character was a young actor who brought them to life in ways that still resonate decades later. Let's meet them. John Bender, the criminal, played by Judd Nelson. Bender was loud, rebellious, and angry. But he was also hurting. He represented the kids who acted tough because they had no choice. Judd Nelson played him with raw intensity. At times, he improvised lines, adding even more edge to the role. Off-screen, he stayed in character between takes, so much so that it caused tension with the cast. But in the end, his performance gave the film its fire. Judd Nelson became an icon of teenage rebellion. His portrayal reminded us that sometimes, the ones who push people away are the ones who need love the most. Claire Standish, the princess played by Molly Ringwald. Claire was the popular girl. Wealthy, stylish, and admired, but also deeply insecure. Molly Ringwald, already a favorite from 16 Candles, brought grace and vulnerability to Claire. She wasn't just playing a stereotype, she was showing the pressure that comes with being seen as perfect. Ringwald was often called the muse of John Hughes, and this role helped cement her as the face of teen cinema in the 1980s. Her honesty in portraying Claire's emotional struggles struck a chord with girls and women everywhere. Andrew Clark, the athlete, played by Emilio Estevez. Andrew looked like the all-American golden boy, strong, confident, respected. But beneath the surface, he was tired of being pushed to win at all costs. Emilio Estevez, son of Martin Sheen and brother of Charlie Sheen, delivered a powerful performance that peeled back the layers of the jock stereotype. Estevez gave Andrew depth. He wasn't just a football player, he was a kid trying to figure out who he really was, outside of his father's expectations. Allison Reynolds, the basket case played by Ally Sheedy. Allison barely spoke when the film began, but she didn't have to. Her silence was loud. She was the outsider, the strange one, the invisible student no one noticed. Ally Sheedy made Allison mysterious, heartbreaking, and surprisingly relatable. Sheedy had already shown her range in films like War Games and would go on to take bold roles, but in The Breakfast Club she gave voice to the weird, the quiet, and the misunderstood. Brian Johnson, the brain played by Anthony Michael Hall. Brian was the smart kid, the one who always got good grades, but even he wasn't safe from pressure. Anthony Michael Hall played Brian with a soft, honest sadness. He showed that even the perfect students had moments of failure and fear. Hall was just 16 during filming, and his youth made Brian feel all the more real. He was also the only cast member to return in future Hughes films, proof of how much the director trusted his talent. Together, these 5 young actors created something unforgettable. They didn't just play roles, they made people feel seen. They reminded us that every teenager has a story, and every story deserves to be heard. And let's not forget Paul Gleason, who played Principal Vernon, the authority figure who symbolized the adult world that didn't always listen. He added just the right amount of pressure to help these 5 students crack open their walls. And of course, John Kapelos as Carl the janitor, quiet, watchful, and wiser than anyone gave him credit for. His small role delivered one of the most important lines in the film. The Breakfast Club wasn't just about teenagers, it was about people, and the cast gave us characters we'd never forget. What makes The Breakfast Club stand out isn't flashy action or dramatic twists. It's the conversations, the raw, honest exchanges that peel back each character's layers. These moments gave the film its emotional weight and its timeless appeal. At its core, the story is about 5 students who start the day as strangers and end it with a connection they never expected. Along the way, certain turning points shape their journey, not through grand events, but through vulnerability, trust, and truth. One of the most powerful moments in the film is when the group stops judging each other and starts listening. The labels begin to fall away. The jock admits he's under pressure to be perfect. The brain reveals how failure pushed him to a breaking point. The princess confesses her loneliness. The basket case opens up about feeling invisible. And even the criminal, the one who mocked everyone, lets down his guard, just enough to reveal the pain hiding underneath his anger. These emotional reveals hit home for many viewers because they felt real. They weren't polished or overacted. They were awkward, tearful, and honest, just like real life. And then there's the moment they all realize something important. Once Monday comes, things may go back to normal. They may not speak in the hallways, they may return to their roles, but for one Saturday they saw each other, not as labels but as human beings. There's also the letter they write as a group. It's more than just a summary of their day, it's a declaration, a quiet act of defiance against the way adults try to box kids in. And it speaks for anyone who's ever felt judged before being understood. The power of these moments lies in what they say and in what they leave unsaid. The silences, the body language, the quiet understanding between characters, all of it helped create something deeply human. For millions of viewers, these key moments weren't just scenes in a movie. They were mirrors, reminders of what it felt like to be young, confused, and hungry to be seen for who you really are. When The Breakfast Club was released in 1985, it didn't need a flashy ad campaign or a blockbuster budget to make waves. It struck a chord right from the start. Critics praised its honesty and simplicity. Audiences, especially teenagers, connected with it on a deeply personal level. It didn't just entertain, it understood. The film became a sleeper hit, earning back many times its budget and turning its young cast into household names. But the real success came after the credits rolled. People didn't just watch The Breakfast Club, they talked about it. They saw themselves in it, and they remembered it. Over the years, the film has become a cultural touchstone. It's been referenced in TV shows, parodied in comedies, quoted at weddings, and even studied in classrooms. Ask someone to name the most iconic teen movie of the 1980s, and chances are, this is the one they'll mention first. It's not just nostalgia that keeps the film alive, it's relevance. Every new generation of teens finds their way to it, and every older viewer sees a piece of their past. Whether you were the brain, the athlete, the basket case, the princess, or the criminal, or maybe a bit of all 5, you found something that spoke to you. The soundtrack, especially the unforgettable anthem, "Don't You Forget About Me" by Simple Minds, became more than a closing song. It became a promise that what happened in that library meant something, and that you'd carry it with you. John Hughes' vision wasn't just about high school. It was about identity, about being seen, about breaking through the masks we wear and connecting as human beings. In 2016, The Breakfast Club was officially added to the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, recognized as culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. That's the highest honor a film can receive in America. And here's the truth. Decades later, people still remember. They remember the fist in the air. They remember the essay. They remember what it felt like to be 17 and searching for where you belong. At first glance, The Breakfast Club might seem like a story about high school stereotypes, but underneath, it's a powerful reminder of something much bigger, something many of us still need to hear, even decades later. People are more than their labels: the athlete, the brain, the princess, the criminal, the basket case. They all walked into that school library thinking they had nothing in common. But as the hours passed, they learned a simple truth. We all carry pain, we all have doubts, and we all want to be understood. That's the heart of the film's message. It teaches us not to judge people based on what we think we know. Behind every confident smile might be pressure. Behind every loud voice might be fear. And behind every silent stare could be a story you haven't heard yet. Another powerful lesson? Listening matters. In a world that moves fast and talks loud, this film reminds us to slow down and really hear each other. Because sometimes the most important conversations happen when you finally stop pretending and start telling the truth. And for parents, teachers, and adults of all kinds, The Breakfast Club is a wake-up call. It asks a tough question. Are you really seeing the young people in your life? Or are you only seeing what you expect them to be? John Hughes gave us a film that encourages empathy, honesty, and connection. It shows that the walls we build between each other, age, class, popularity, race, are thinner than we think. It also tells us something else. No matter how old you are, it's never too late to open up. It's never too late to change how you treat others or how you see yourself. These lessons are just as true today as they were in 1985. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the film still matters. If The Breakfast Club meant something to you, if it reminded you of your teenage years or helped you understand your kids better, if it made you laugh, cry, or see yourself in someone you once ignored, then don't keep that feeling to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that people are more than what they seem. Leave a comment below. Tell us, who were you in high school? The brain, the athlete, or someone in between? Start a conversation with your kids, with your grandkids, with an old friend you haven't talked to in years. And most importantly, next time you meet someone new, or even someone you think you already know, take a moment, look past the label, and remember what this film taught us. Each one of us is a brain, and an athlete, and a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. We're all carrying something, and sometimes all it takes is one day, one conversation, to truly understand someone. So don't forget them. Don't forget you. And don't forget what The Breakfast Club taught us all those years ago. Like, subscribe and stick around, because there are more stories coming your way. Ones that shaped generations and still speak to the heart. Thanks for watching. Some movies entertain us, some make us laugh, and a few, just a rare few, stay with us for life. The Breakfast Club wasn't just a film, it was a moment, a mirror, a message. It told us that the walls between us are thinner than we think, that underneath the surface we're all fighting battles, seeking connection, and trying to be seen. Whether you first saw this movie in a packed theater in 1985, or you stumbled upon it years later on a quiet Sunday night, its message remains the same. You are not alone, you never were. And no matter how old you get, there's always room for understanding, forgiveness, and growth. So here's to the outsiders, the misfits, the overachievers, the quiet ones, the rebels. Here's to the kid you used to be, and the person you've become. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and as the music once said, don't you forget about me.